All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to today's session on business and entrepreneurship programs in the United States. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you're safe and healthy. So I would like to welcome our attendees from Libya, Iran, and anywhere in the world. So welcome to today's session. Make sure to share this link with your friends, with anyone interested in these two majors. And of course, feel free to ask your questions, and we'll bring them up at the end of the session. So again, if you're interested in studying business or entrepreneurship in the United States, this is a chance for you to be introduced to these majors and learn, why you might choose them. So with the pandemic creating a sharp rise in the entrepreneurial activity, the US is an ideal place to learn about this trending career path. So I'm glad to have with us two great representatives from University of Lynchburg. And we also have our Education USA advisor for Iran today as well. So now we're going to start with a brief introduction about our network, Education USA. So who are we and how can we help you? And then we'll turn it over to our guest speakers, and it's going to be your turn, to learn more details about the majors today. And then we'll wrap it up with the questions and answers. So welcome again and enjoy the session. Over to you, Amy.
Thank you very much, Amira. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So a little bit about Education USA Network and our services. Education USA is the U.S. Department of State network of over 400 advising centers in more than 175 countries. So my colleague Amira at Education USA Libya and me at the Education USA Iran Advising Center based in DC, like all other colleagues in other countries, offer qualified individuals with accurate, comprehensive information on US higher education and assist them in accessing educational opportunities in the United States. Education USA works closely with the students and families, high school counselors, higher education institutions, and government organizations to ensure that the students across the globe get current and up-to-date information about US higher education. So with that, I would like to pass it to our today's speakers to tell us more about business and entrepreneurship major.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Amy. My name is Aaron Basco. I'm the Associate Vice President of Enrollment Services here at the University of Lynchburg, and we're very happy to be able to help in the hosting of this presentation today. We're excited to talk with you about these particular areas of academic study. I have a great speaker who's an expert in this area that I'll introduce to you in just a minute. But first, I wanted to just briefly introduce the University of Lynchburg itself, so you get to know who is sharing with you today. So the University of Lynchburg, we are a private university located in the state of Virginia. We are about 3 hours away from Washington, D.C. On the East Coast, close location to lots of important cities and different areas, but also close to the coast and very close to the Blue Ridge Mountains. So it's a beautiful area here. I think as you consider different options for university study, there are three things that I say that everybody ought to know about the University of Lynchburg. So I wanted to share those briefly with you. The first is that, and we're very focused on helping students with experiential learning. So we know that as you, come and study and you'll listen and be in classroom settings and work with great faculty, but it's also really important that you learn by doing. And so we will give you many, many opportunities to practice what it is that you're learning, because we know that if you have that opportunity to do what you learn, you'll remember it. But also that as you go out into the world, employers and graduate schools and those kinds of things also love to see that you not only know theoretically, but that you also know how to actually apply what it is that you've learned. So there are lots of opportunities here to connect and to be able to get very hands-on learning experience, which you'll hear more about today. The second thing that I think is a great benefit to students is our location. Again, we are located in the city of Lynchburg, which is a wonderful small city. We have 4 education institutions, 4 others that are here, so lots of students. We have easy access to, lots of different areas. I mentioned Washington, D.C., which is right on the train line from here into the Northeast Corridor. But we also have amazing outdoor activities that students can take part in: hiking, biking, trails, all kinds of great things, outdoor leadership opportunities, and a terrific, warm, friendly city where students will find a great welcome. And the last thing that I want to mention is something that I think is kind of at the heart of the institution. So one of the interesting things, if you come here and come to our main green space, which is called the Dell, you'll see a gigantic sign with the word love in it. And this is very much part of the character of the institution. We were founded over 100 years ago by people who really wanted to teach students how to love their neighbor and to make an impact in their community. And that's very much something that has been part of who we are and what we want to give back to the world. So we not only want to teach students how to be great academic students, we want to help them become better people and to really encourage them on how they can make a difference in the world, how they can change their community, how they can connect with other people, and how they can go out into the world and really make a difference. And I think one fun fact about this, one of our most famous alumni is actually Setsuko Thurlow, who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner for nuclear disarmament. So I think just one example of how we have done this throughout our past. So we're excited to share those three pieces with you. Today's topic is all about business and entrepreneurship. And so I invited the best expert that I know about that, Dr. Timothy Schauer, who is one of my favorite professors here on campus, very knowledgeable about this topic, both a business faculty member, but also an entrepreneur himself. And I'm excited for him to be able to share with you a little bit about these topics and what great opportunities are available out there. So we wanted to have a conversation with you today about that. So Dr. Schauer, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Aaron, for that nice welcome. And we not only are colleagues, but we're friends in all full disclosure. So thank you for this opportunity to talk to you today. Just a little bit more about me. I was and still really think like an entrepreneur. And I think that there's great value in entrepreneurial thinking. And so we're going to try and dig a bit deeply into the topic of entrepreneurship. And one of the ways that we're going to look at it is through the lens of a couple of entrepreneurs that you might know, very famous American entrepreneurs. And then we'll look at the topic, and then I'm going to give you a tool at the end that will give you an idea of the way we approach those sorts of things like entrepreneurship using this tool that I found to be useful. I've worked with a number of entrepreneurs. I owned an advertising and then later a marketing firm. And so you can imagine we had clients coming to us that wanted to start businesses. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, and many were successful and some not so. There's also a concept that I want to introduce to you called Intrapreneurship, which is where larger companies, international companies, in fact, will look at ways that they can think entrepreneurial. And they often really try and segment these areas that they think that there's some need and that they could provide some value to customer bases. And they often call them skunk works. The idea being that we don't want anybody around them. Just give them a budget, put them in a room and let them think through these things so that although we're a big behemoth organization, we can still be nimble, think much more granular like an entrepreneur might. And so this is very pervasive, not only in the United States, but as we'll see in the world. I'm going to share my screen with you and share a PowerPoint that I think will be helpful. So let me move this around a little bit so I can access what I want to show you. Okay. Now, if we can advance it, we'll be in good shape. There we go. So I thought the best way to think about entrepreneurship is to look at some of these images, and then I'm going to give you a chance to think about what might be what I call something that would appear on a bug list. Now, when I say a bug list, I'm talking about the things that might bug us. And entrepreneurs often think about these things, the things that we encounter in our daily routines that might be problematic for people. There we go. There's the second image. There's the third image. Now, take a look at these, and I want you to think about something that these three beautiful brides may all have in common, a problem that might be not unique to any one of them, but might apply to all three. Anybody, can you think of something that would be an issue that brides may encounter the day of their wedding? They've gotten all dressed and they're ready to go in front of the clergy to get married. And so, just for fun, I'm going to see if we have anybody that would be willing to chat and tell me what you think could be a. Of course, I don't have access to chat, so I can't tell if you're responding. Here's the problem. Ready?
And we also have some people who are following us from the Facebook page. So I'm at the same time managing the comments that we have here. And I'll make sure to copy them here as well.
Okay, great. So they have to go to the bathroom. And what do you do when you have, a 50-pound dress on and layers and layers and layers? And so a company came up with the solution. It's called the Bridal Buddy. And for about $100, now I think it's less than that now, it's about $60, you can wear this sort of undergarment, and it all kind of scoops up and into this piece of elastic, and you do your business, and then you can let it out and it goes right back to your dress. And so here's an example of something that an entrepreneur looked at and said, hey, this is a problem. And I think I have a solution to fix it. Okay, this is what I call entrepreneurial thinking. I have an ongoing, what I call a bug list in my brain, things that I see as problems for a lot of people, and it hasn't yet been addressed. Let me give you another example. So these are inhalers, and there's a commonality in all of these people. They're all old. But what if you're a youngster and you've got a breathing problem and you need an inhaler? Do you want one of these bland, bluish looking types of things? No, an entrepreneur said, let's come up with something that might be a little bit more appropriate for children. And so they licensed some of these characters. The one on the left here is from Sesame Street, and they created their own. And so now some entrepreneur looked and said, okay, I know this is a common problem. Oftentimes they've experienced it themselves, and then they come up with ways to overcome it. Now, I met just this morning with a friend of mine who owns a marketing company in town. And I told him that we are going to be doing some market research in the fall. And he said, oh my word, I would love you to work with a client of ours. And as Aaron mentioned, we love application. Almost all of my classes, I will use real clients so that the students are working on very live projects. These are not just exercises that we do out of a textbook. We want you to engage. We want you to walk through that process. And so the company that he wants us to work for, you're going to love this. And I never thought about it, but some smart entrepreneur not only thought about it, but they want to franchise this idea. And here's the idea. More people, at least in the United States, are getting cremated than they used to. In fact, a recent survey says that 80% of people plan to be cremated when they pass away. And so this company is looking at how to dispose very respectfully of these ashes, because, you might inherit your grandfather's ashes, and maybe you don't want them on your in your living room. And so, but you don't want to throw them away. And so this company will take them, and they will in a very honoring way, either bury or put the ashes where the family may want them. And they're extending it not only to people, but to pets. And so people that live in high-rise buildings and apartment buildings that don't have access to land, and they have a beloved pet, what are they going to do? Well, they'll hire this company to take their remains and place them somewhere that the owner wishes. So they want to know from us, this entrepreneur is saying, is there a bigger appetite and we'd like to franchise it, but we've done no research, and we'd like your students to help us bring people in and see if there's some access, if there's value. Okay, does that make sense? So I have a couple of words highlighted here about entrepreneurship. I talked to you about the bug list. And so a bug list is what bugs us. It's kind of an American vernacular that just says it bothers us. It causes us problems. And that reveals needs. And we want to know, entrepreneurs are always thinking about those things, but then they have to come to the realization or assess the issue and say, is this big enough that we might be able to, to market it to a large number of people? Number two, does it provide value to people? If it's a need, but there's not enough value that our company or the idea of meeting that need could provide, it's not going to really be well received. And so how do you define value? Well, we define it benefits. So what is the customer, what's the end user going to benefit from the thing that we're trying to sell, minus the cost? And so as marketers, we can do a few things to build value. We can either grow the benefits, and so we can point out, here's the benefits that you would have by using our products or by coming to our university, or we can minimize the cost. Maybe we can reduce the cost. And the first of the two entrepreneurs we're going to look at today was very much involved or interested in reducing cost. But we can grow value, again, by either increasing the benefits or by decreasing the cost. And that's what entrepreneurs want to do. We want to make what we provide as valuable as we possibly can. Some of the strategies that companies use in the United States, and these are all three United States companies, we can either look at the best price to grow value, which is what I mentioned before about lowering cost. We could look at providing great service, or we could look at providing the best products, quality. And so I have examples of some American companies which you may or may not be familiar with. We have an old adage that entrepreneurs have used for years, and it says price, quality, or service, pick any two. Most of the time, a company can't offer all three. If you want great pricing, you're probably not going to either get good service or a quality product, right? Or if I want a really good product, I'm not probably going to be able to give you a low price. So that's the kind of the way we process this, and these are the tools that we use. So how much value is there? We talked about that, but is it monetizable? Can we sell this? And then how do we find this out? Well, we find it out by research. And I mentioned the company that we're going to be working with. We're going to be doing focus groups with them, which we're going to take a number of people, and we're going to put them in a room, and we're going to ask them questions, and we're going to study them and see how they react and respond. We may use polls, we may do surveys. We call them mall intercepts, where we just stop people at public places and ask them questions. And so the last, well, there's two more things I want to talk about in this slide. We have to think about the audience. So an entrepreneur thinks they have a need that they've discovered. They think that they can provide value, but who are they going to target? Who will be the people that they want to put all of their energies towards? So they look at all of the potential customers, and then we segment them into groups of like people, groups that might respond similarly to our product, that might be able to be reached in a particular way. And then we go, of all of those segments, let's go after this one and this one. And that's what we call the targeting. And then the very last thing is an entrepreneur needs to create what we call a unique selling proposition. We look at these points that we want to bring out, the message the things of value that we think that these people will respond to if we could only tell them. So Aaron talked to you a little bit about some of the things that we at the University of Lynchburg offer. And we are in an amazing area. There's mountains, there's water, you're close to the beach, you're close to big cities like Washington, D.C. Well, we talk about those kinds of things because we think that those message points are valuable in creating a unique selling proposition. If you're in Idaho, you don't have access to some of these things. It's unique to us. And so these are the ways that we process it, even at a larger organization. But entrepreneurs need to be really clear on what their unique selling proposition is. I'll share this with you. I was at a prospective client one time. He asked me to come. He was an entrepreneur and he was a manufacturer. He produced some industrial products. And he said, would you please come? I'll pay you to consult and maybe I could hire you as a consultant. I pulled into his parking lot. It was dirty. The lines on the parking lot to tell you where to park, they were covered with dirt and they were faded. I walked to the front door. The concrete was all broken. The door, there was trash by the door. It didn't open properly. I went in. I talked to the receptionist behind the counter. She didn't remember that I had an appointment, asked me to sit down. The furniture was ripped. There were stains on the carpet. I waited about 30 minutes. The owner of the company comes to me and says, come on in my office. And the first thing he asks me, he said, the first thing I asked him, I said, if you could describe your company in 3 words, and really what I was trying to get at here was this unique selling proposition. And so I said, in 3 words, what would you tell me? What are the 3 words that would describe your business? And guess what he told me? He said, I don't need 3 words. I only need 1. I said, great. I'm waiting to hear it. He said, quality. And I looked at him and I didn't know if I should be honest with him or not, but I took a risk. And I said, I got to tell you, nothing that I've seen is supporting that message point. And we had a very interesting conversation. And actually, he ended up hiring me. I thought he was going to throw me out, but it was very interesting. So entrepreneurship, let's talk a little bit about the topic itself. There are 528 million entrepreneurs in the world. That is enormous. And even large companies usually start through some entrepreneur that has an idea. In the United States, we have almost 4 million of those 528 million. And I think, and when you think about the United States, we kind of, at least we think that we are we have that gene in our DNA as a culture. There's a lot of people that have started larger companies by taking risks, by innovating, by not doing things the way everybody else has done them. And, one of the biggest misconceptions to entrepreneurs is that they're wild risk takers. And that's not necessarily true. In fact, most of the entrepreneurs that I've met are completely the opposite. They're willing to take risk, but not randomly. They're very careful. They minimize the risk the best that they can, so that opportunity that they're investing time and usually a lot of money is going to take root and grow. And so we're in a very unique time right now in the United States. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I can go back. Yeah, this number here, 5.4 million is it's a 23% year over year high. We haven't seen this level of entrepreneurship in over 15 years. That's amazing. And there's a number of reasons for this. One of them, of course, is the pandemic, because just like around the world, many people were being laid off, and they didn't just waste the time and binge watch TV shows. They were researching. They were trying to develop a business plan to see, this idea that I've sat on for some time, why don't I do something with it? And so we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurship, not only in the US, but the United States. And so this is a great time to be studying it. The number of people wanting to start their own business because of the dissatisfaction with the corporate America grew 27% in 2020. And again, this is a big number. And so, universities and frankly, governments are hoping to fuel this, to fund some of these people. And there's whole industries of private investors that are willing to provide capital if they believe that the marketing plan is strong enough to do well. One of my clients is a private equity firm. They have about $1.5 billion that they invest in entrepreneurs, but they're not going to give that money to anybody who has an idea that they write on the back of a napkin. They want to make sure it's well thought through, researched, and the concepts have been proven. Nearly 1 in 5, or 18.7% of businesses worldwide, take the form of family entrepreneurship in one way or another. And so this is entire families that are now have, in some cases, multi-generational entrepreneurial efforts. And so this is another area of interest, at least for me, is family business. So what I want to do, let's see, we're good for a few minutes here, I think, right? Before we get to some question and answers. Great. I want to talk about two iconic American entrepreneurs. And the first one, you may recognize his name, Henry Ford. Henry Ford was born in 1863, which, for those of you who know American history, is the middle of the Civil War. In fact, he was born the day before the turning point in the war. He was born the day before Gettysburg, the Battle of Gettysburg, which is this iconic battle in Pennsylvania. And Henry Ford, there's a lot of people that know a lot about this guy, and some have very bad feelings toward him, and others not so much. They applaud him for some of the innovation that he brought. But he was a forward-thinking type of a guy. He's well known as the founder of the Ford Motor Company. But I want you to know that his initial goals, he was an entrepreneur, but he never thought he'd be building cars. At the age of 12, two big things happened in Henry Ford's life. He received a watch as a gift, a wristwatch. And he took that watch apart and he put it together, and he realized that he could create watches and bring the cost of those watches down if he could replicate the process of producing and then assembling these watches. And the watch business never went on, it took off for him. It failed. And from there, the second big thing that he saw at the age of 12, he watched some folks actually run, I'm trying to find my note here because I want to find the names, Nichols and Shepard. They had what they called a road engine. It was an early automobile. Henry Ford did not invent the automobile. He saw one at the age of 12, though. So now he's got this process, this idea that I could make something and create process to make it more efficiently. And there's a new invention out there called this road engine. And so, of course, we all know what happened. He started what we call Fordism. It was a mass production of inexpensive goods, but he coupled that with high wages for workers. And so he had this very entrepreneurial drive. He knew that there was a need for automobiles. He realized he could create value. He knew that he was able to produce, his value proposition was, I can make them cheap. And in fact, he did that. And we'll talk about that in just a second. He felt that through consumerism, and here's again his kind of grand idea. He felt that if people were interested in producing things, that it's detrimental to countries to go to war. And he felt that if we could all be productive as countries and make goods that other people might want, his hope was that one day there would be no war. Of course, that didn't pan out very well, but he was very idealistic in this. And he wanted to create these automobiles that were affordable to the common man. His investors that helped him start the company said, "You're going about this all wrong. Charge a lot of money and only cater to the elite." And he said, "No, I want to build cheap cars." And in fact, to get a load of this, tell me when you've ever seen car prices drop. In 1908, his first automobile was $825. And 8 years later, it dropped to $360. He developed what he called welfare capitalism. So while he was trying to bring the cost of the automobiles down, he was trying to make the lives of the people that worked for him better. He doubled their salaries overnight. He went from a long work weeks to a 48-hour work week. And then 4 years later, he brought it down to 40 hours a week. And so he was giving people more leisure time. And to be honest, Henry Ford felt that if he gave them more money and more leisure time, they were going to buy more of his cars. So there was a little ulterior motive here. He's also well known for his franchises. He developed these showrooms at the bottom right here. You see it. They were spacious showrooms. He created literature that people could come into the showroom. They could touch, feel the car, drive the car. He would give them literature about the car. And then he had a helpful salesperson there to help them sell the car. This is all innovative stuff. He not only sold the cars, but he serviced the cars at these dealerships, and then he sold spare parts. Very creative guy. Let's look at another one, also in the automobile industry. Now, this guy's a little different. He was born in 1971. He's the wealthiest man on the planet. He was highly educated. Henry Ford never went to high school. This guy, he went to the University of Pretoria in South Africa. He then moved to Ontario, where he went to Queen's University. And then he went to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States, and he got a bachelor's in economics and physics. So that'll play into his love for space, right? Henry Ford he only started one company, and it was the Ford Motor Company. Not so with Elon Musk. I just wrote some of these down because I didn't think I could remember them all. In 1995, he started a software company. He co-founded it called Zip2. He was not wealthy at that point. In fact, he rented an office. He slept at the local gym. We call them YMCAs in the United States. I don't know if they're international. Number two, he started XCOM, which is an online finance company. And that merged with a large company you may be aware of called PayPal. And then he founded SpaceX with $100 million because now he's making money. And he was always fascinated with Mars. And then, of course, Tesla, which we kind of know him for. And the reason I chose him is because Henry Ford was a car manufacturer. He invested $6.5 million. He joined the board of directors. But he also has some other companies. Neuralink, which is a neurotechnology startup. He co-founded that. And he founded the Boring Company, which is a construction. They make construction tunnels. They burrow under things, these big old tunnels. He's also very altruistic. So I thought we'd look at some of the differences and the similarities. Both wealthy, one not highly educated, the other highly educated. One had just one company that they worked for. Musk has many companies. And by the way, he's not an old man. Who knows what he's going to do? They were both altruistic. Henry Ford wanted to make the lives of Americans better by producing a way for them to move about at a low cost and pay high wages to his employees with with more leisure time. Elon Musk is an interesting guy. He's we know the situation going on in Russia and Ukraine, and he is supplying communication satellites and making them available to the Ukrainians. He hopes to one day make solar panels, the technology behind that, free to any company that wants to that wants to use it, because he thinks that solar is a way to make our planet more sustainable. He's taken the pledge to give away most of his money. Trying to think what they call that. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called the Give Pledge. And so he's realizing that he's wealthy, he's fortunate, and he wants to do some common good for mankind. And so these two guys, both very visionary, both working hard. Henry Ford was married, but he would work overnight in his little backyard garage making a better engine. Elon Musk, people don't think that he ever sleeps. He's always working. He doesn't take vacations. He's just like, and so these men are driven. This is the heart of entrepreneurship. They see a need and they figure out a way to make it work. What I wanted to leave you with today is what I call a canvas. And I would make this available if we could figure out how to get this to you. You certainly could use this PowerPoint. In the old days, and I'm not saying that it's still not happening, but this is a tool I'll use with my students. We write these business plans that will be page after page. They'll be 50 and 60 and 70 pages. I've seen many of them. I've seen them come across my desk. I often will only read the executive summary because I just don't have time to look at them. But this is a one-page, sort of a down and dirty way to think through entrepreneurship and flesh out the idea. And I'm going to quickly go through these 9 blocks. You ready? Because we're going to move quick. So the first one on the right here is who are our customers? I talked to you a little bit about segmentation and targeting. Who are the people that we think will use, will want, are willing to buy our product or our service? We've got to determine that. That's block number 1. Block number 2. I can get there we go. The value proposition. Remember I talked about how important that is? I use the term unique selling proposition, but it's all centered around the value we're going to provide for these customers that we've identified. How is what we do going to deliver value to them? Okay. And so we can think of a few things like, is it because it's new, it provides value? Is it a high performing item? Can they customize it? Is that what provides the value? Maybe it's the design. Maybe it's the brand or the status. Maybe it's the price. Maybe what we provide will allow them to cut the costs of their, what they're paying. Or maybe it's something that will add convenience. Next one, the revenue. Channels next. How are you going to reach your customer? How are they going to actually buy what it is you're selling? Are you going to sell it through a distribution channel, like in a grocery store? Or are you going to sell it on an online retailer? How are they going to be able to get what you buy? And this requires a lot of thought. I have a friend that's developed a sports drink, and this is probably the most difficult thing for him. How is he going to get to every convenience store if that's where he wants to sell it to the customers? The relationship. How are we going to get? How are we going to keep? And how are we going to grow those customers that we've decided we're going to go after? And so one of the ways we do this is we think about the entire journey. If a customer wants to buy this, how are they going to work through the process from getting an idea to buy our product to actually receiving it in our hands? Next one. What are the revenue streams? Where is the money coming from? So you think about universities. Well, we know that students are a revenue source for universities, but what other ways do we create revenue? Can we use our facilities in the summer and rent them out to groups that might want to use them? Do we have a bookstore? Do we make money in food? What are other ways to get more revenue into the organization? Next one. Now, by the way, these all on the right, what I love about these are all the ways we're going to make money. And we love to talk about these, but now we got to go to the other side of the table. These are kind of the things that it's going to cost the company. And so what are our resources? What do we have in terms of physical assets or intellectual assets or human assets or financial assets? What are the resources that we have available to us? Next one. What are the key activities? What do we need to do to make the business model work? Well, as an organization, we, here at University of Lynchburg, we have to hire faculty, right? We need to hire career people that are going to help our students get jobs afterwards. We've got to clean our dorms. We've got to make food. These are all key activities. I see a chat up here, and I'm just seeing it now. Would you please repeat the name of the chart again for the students? Yeah, this is called a canvas model. Canvas. We're going to move on here. Partners. Maybe we can't do everything ourselves. Maybe we're going to need people to help us. So at the university, maybe we're going to outsource. We're going to hire somebody to come in and clean our dorms. Maybe we're going to partner with another organization like a local hospital that's going to allow our medical students to work for that hospital, because we can't build a hospital. So why not partner with one? This is what I'm talking about. Things that we need that we can't do ourselves. And then lastly, what are the costs? What are the costs that are going to be associated to all of these things that we need to do to create a product or a service that provides enough value that our customers are interested and are willing to come to our university or buy our product or hire somebody to cut our hair? Every entrepreneur has to think through these things. And as I mentioned, a full-blown marketing or business plan is often pages and pages and pages. But this is a way to get you to start thinking through it. And this is a tool that I'll often use in my classes. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Here's the tool that, without all the cute pictures, but these are the questions that need to be answered in each one of these 9 blocks. And I'm going to, again, make this available to you, or you can Google Canvas model. And if you type in business plan, it'll probably come right up. So I'm going to check my chat, and then I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to come back here and I guess hand it back to Aaron at this point.
That's so great, Tim. We really appreciate it. Nothing like giving a great tool too that people can use. Amira, do you have questions that you're seeing for Tim that we should, or for me, that we can field for anyone?
First of all, I'd like both of you, for joining us. I would like to thank you for joining us today and for providing all of these great resources for our students, whether from Libya, from Iraq, and from everywhere else. And now, yeah, it's time to move to the questions. So Amy, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for this great presentation. Specifically, the stories of successful entrepreneurs was very interesting to me. So, I mean, usually I receive many inquiries from my students living in Iran or other countries about business programs in the US. So I'm sure that this presentation would be a great source for many of them. And yes, Timothy, we will share the video and the PowerPoint with the students right after this live session. So the students will have access to the info and the Canvas model and everything else. So today I received a couple of questions from my students on Instagram inbox about this session that I would like to share here with you. I think that the first question, so the first question, I believe that would be more for Timothy. So how can we start communicating with faculty members? I usually choose them based on their research interests and email them. but I would like to know what would they usually want to see in my correspondences, my resume, what information I should mention in my email or anything else.
So you're talking about from a student's perspective, what would the professor want to see?
Exactly.
Yeah, Aaron, you probably could handle that better than I. Why don't you take this one?
Sure. Sure. I think for students indicating, often a good first stop is for them to come through the admissions office, because if they reach out to us and one of my team members, we can help direct and make sure that the correspondence gets to the right person who might have the right interest. But I think we're very interested in hearing about students who have done a little bit of research about the university itself and kind of have learned a few things and say, oh, I think this might be a good fit for me. They look and they say, I'm really interested in that idea of applied learning, experiential learning. I see how that would be really helpful for me in a career in business. Or I really like that you all are focused on helping students learn to make an impact in their community or in their lives, and giving some examples of, why that's important to them, or telling them that. And that allows us to then match it up and say, oh, we have a great faculty member who does research in that area, or who knows something about that, so that we can, kind of help reach out. So I think if you do a little bit of homework ahead of time on the university to learn, what's important to that place, and then you say, oh, I've been doing a little bit of research and it seems like you all value this, and that's very important to me, and here's what I'm hoping to do, then we can help you make that right connection with the right person that might share that interest. Does that sound good, Tim?
That's great. And I'll just share one more thing. We love students, and I don't think this is unique to us, but I can tell you that when we have a driven student that wants to do something unique, even if it's outside of the class, if you've got some entrepreneurial idea, we are here to help. And we take great personal interest in helping you fulfill that. And so any sort of interest that you have in a particular thing, I am like all about, let's talk about it, let's meet afterwards and figure out a way to make you successful in this.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So Amira, do you want to ask the next question, and then I will just ask the other one?
Of course. Thank you so much, Amy.
Sure.
So the next question is, will this business model of Canvas suit any kind of business size and nature?
Yeah, I've never seen one that did not fit into each of these 9 blocks. If we take a business plan and we distill it down, this is what you're going to be left with. And I've used it for large companies and startups. And so I think it would be applicable to either any kind of size, any sort of business.
Perfect. Awesome. Are you done with your question, Amira?
Yes.
Okay. So just referring to your previous point, Timothy, so one of my students asked, I have many novel ideas and already have a product that will for sure receive a patent. Am I an entrepreneur? So I believe that what the students wants to ask is that, how can I know if I am a good fit for business and entrepreneurship program?
That is the $1 million question. And, people that take, and you can go online and you can take these entrepreneur assessments. And I've given them to people who are entrepreneurs that don't pass.
Mm-hmm.
They're discouraged from entering that. I will tell you this. There are certain things that I find that are common in all entrepreneurs. They're willing to work hard. They're willing to test ideas. They have curious minds. Okay, and I haven't yet said anything about risk or about the ability to sell. These are just people that can look at something and find a solution. And if you get there, you are in my mind like qualified to take it to the next level. And so what we like to see at the point at which you have novel ideas or innovative thoughts, test it, try it. And we tend as entrepreneurs to run to our parents or our friends, and they go, yes, we love it. Well, yes, your mom's going to love what you build, but testing it through And here's where universities can come in. We will help you sort of flesh it out. We can do focus groups. We can take it to a business that we're connected with and see if we can get some more feedback, because there's where the rubber's going to hit the road. Will someone invest in that idea? So I know it's not an exact science, and it's a really vague answer. I would say if you don't stop thinking about new ideas, you're probably entrepreneurial.
Perfect, perfect. And so a follow-up question for this one. So is there any info session or webinars or I would say info session, virtual info sessions that the school can offer, that the students can join and just learn more about the program and just see if they are a good fit before they move forward with their admission process?
Great question, Aaron. That's probably going to be down your alley.
Yeah. I mean, we would love to do something like that. We have had virtual information sessions in the past on all different topics. So it sounds like if there's definite interest, this might be one where we need to invite Tim and perhaps some colleagues to give a virtual session. I mean, certainly, if the student would like to contact us and reach out, we can make sure that they get an invitation if we prepare something like that. So I think we're very happy to share some of that information and help start connecting students with things that they're interested in the future. So we could certainly work on that.
Perfect. So we will just make that connection. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, that's really important. Thank you so much, Amy, for asking that question. Yeah. Okay. So the next question is about scholarships. Some of the students are asking what kind of scholarship, financial aid opportunities you have at University of Lynchburg.
Sure, great question. I think for us, cost can be helpful for students in some ways because as probably many students know, in general, cost in the United States is pretty high for college and universities, right? And there are some colleges and universities whose yearly costs for tuition, room and board and everything are $60,000 or $70,000. So I think for us, we do have some ability to help students with that. It helps out that first, our cost is not that high for a public institution. We're below the $50,000 mark, but then we also do offer some academic scholarships for students, and they change year to year. So you always have to kind of check and see, what the most current is. But currently for this year, we actually have a very nice global presidential scholarship is what it's called. And it's this year's amount was $27,000. So that's, really you're talking about more than half of the cost of the institution would be supported by the university, which is, I think, a big help for students. And so obviously we're looking for good students for that. But if you apply and you're a strong, solid student, typically we're looking at students who have the equivalent of maybe like a 3.5 or above, or at least 3.0 and above. You could qualify for one of those global presidentials, which would make a huge difference in the amount of funding that you need to pay.
Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you very much, Amira, for asking, and thank you, Aaron, for the information. So I just received a new question. So it's about the interview. So is there an interview as part of the admission process for your program? And if so, what are the factors that the school considers during the interview process?
Great question. So we offer both undergraduate and graduate programs, and the processes are a little bit different. The graduate programs have very specific criteria that they look for. I work mostly with the undergraduate level, and for the undergraduate level, an interview is not required, but we welcome the opportunity to talk with you and meet with you. In particular, this has been helpful. We require of our students proof of English proficiency. And in the past, that's always been a testing piece. So we ask students to provide for us either the TOEFL or the IELTS or the Duolingo testing to prove English ability. In the past few years, because testing has been very difficult, we have also offered opportunities for students to video interview with us for their English language proficiency as well. So that's been helpful. But yes, if you apply to the university and are interested, we would be happy to have a video chat with you to get to know you a little bit better. And we think that can be helpful. And I think the thing to focus on is really what we talked about before with the application process and with communication. Do a little bit of research, find out a little bit more about the University of Lynchburg, and then be able to talk about why you think you're a good fit. Like, hey, I saw the session on entrepreneurship. Here's my interest in the entrepreneurship area. The things that Dr. Schauer talked about were really, important to me and, really resonated with me. And I'd love to be able to come and work with faculty like that on entrepreneurial ideas, something of that nature. Or I see what what the university offers in terms of its community. And this is why I think it could be a good fit for me and I could be a good fit for the university. Those are the kinds of things that we love to hear, because we certainly want very strong academic students, but we also are trying to build a community. We want to be a place where students come and feel welcome, where they can contribute their ideas and their passion, where they will make friends, where they will make connections that last perhaps their whole lives. And so we are looking for students who will come and be good community members. So the more you can help us understand what you'll contribute to the community, the better.
That was perfect. And Amira, if you don't mind, I just have a follow-up question that can be close to what just Aaron mentioned. So how diverse is the student body in your school? So you just mentioned about diversity and bringing different backgrounds and everything. So I thought that it might be a good time to ask the other question as well.
Absolutely. So we bring students in geographically from about 35 states within the United States, and we have about 12 countries represented internationally. Now, our country representation, our student body internationally, obviously is a little bit smaller than it would normally be because of the past 2 years when it was very difficult for students to come into the country. But we're excited. We're sort of rebuilding that piece. We have about 20 or so, I think, new incoming international students that are looking to join us this fall, maybe a few more. So we're certainly excited about that. We have, as far as sort of ethnic diversity, we're about 25% to 30% of our students come from sort of varying ethnic backgrounds. So I think this is the kind of place where students feel very welcome. They feel very supported. This is a very warm community, I think, both in terms of the area that we live in, but also the university itself. So I think students would come here and find a very accepting environment that looking for people to bring their new ideas, and to really make, again, kind of a community that is a woven community of lots of different experiences is very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, this is really important for students to hear and families. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Amira, do you want to ask your questions?
Of course, yeah. So, Mr. Aaron, since you're talking about the best fit, I have a question about that. So, how can potential MA, students make their application stand out if they want to apply to, the College of Business at University of Lynchburg?
That's a great question. And Dr. Schauer may have something more on this too. But I think talking to us about what experience you might have had already trying to apply what it is you're learning. We talked a lot about that, right? That not that you just, learn from books or learn from lectures, but also that you've tried to take some of those ideas and try to do something interesting with them. We talked about that sort of entrepreneurial spirit before, and are you always thinking about problems, right? It might be kind of interesting to share some, thoughts about like what your process is like, or, you wouldn't have to name the product, but you could say, hey, I've been working about this and I brought it through this, portion of the process. I think, we're looking for students who will come and engage and be active learners. So I think the more that you can show us that you're not just a passive learner who just wants to listen and take notes, but you're actually an active learner who wants to take what you're learning and do something interesting with it, especially if it's something, Dr. Schauer highlighted two people who used their great entrepreneurship in order to make the world better and to give back to people and to try to improve people's lives. And I think that's something that's very much at the heart of what we try to do as a university. So I think that would be a perfect thing to share, is to say, here's what I've learned, here's how I'm applying it, here's how I'm hoping it can make a difference.
Well said. I have nothing to add to that. That is exactly what we'd be looking for: engagement.
That's really important. Thank you so much for your great answer. Over to you, Amy.
Okay, and the last question that I have for now is that what about real life experiences like internship, or the school actually make any connections with the businesses and organizations, companies during our study or after our study?
Yeah, well, I'll take this one, and maybe Aaron can add a little something to what I would share. If there weren't people in the hallway right now, I would disconnect the cord from my computer and walk you to a bulletin board that's filled with internship opportunities. It's literally 15 feet down the hallway here. And so we keep it in the hall. And so students are constantly looking to see what sort of business internships are available. Many of our students do take advantage of that. And often that parlays them into a really good job, often with that same company. And so we do independent studies, we have internships. But in terms of, you mentioned, I lost my train of thought there for a bit. Working with real clients. Several of my colleagues will do that. We will work with live clients. I do probably 2 or 3 of my classes every semester will have a live connection to it. Here at the University of Lynchburg, we are really interested in applying what we're learning. We just don't want you to just have this head knowledge. We understand that if you do it, you will understand it and you will see the value in learning it. And so that's a big part of our curriculum, is to try and bring real life application. When we can't work with real clients, then we use simulations. There's a lot of simulations we use so that the student actually gets to create social media posts and put them out and see, how they're going to do, as opposed to the one that they might change, so that they can see, all right, I did an A/B test. I used this image on this post and I used this image on this post. This one worked better. I wonder why. Next time I'm going to use more images like this. So we constantly are thinking of ways to apply what you're learning. That's the one. I think of all of the things that we can talk about in our program here in the business, College of Business, I would say application is probably one of our strengths. We're small enough, we're connected enough, and most of our professors know a lot of business people. So we have lots of opportunity to draw them in.
That is wonderful. I believe that bridging the gap between theory and practice can be super beneficial in the learning process. And I really appreciate that. That's perfect. Okay, Amira, I'm done with my questions, the questions that I received from students. Do you have any additional questions?
Can you hear me very well?
Yes, now we hear you. We just heard your voice, but
okay, yeah.
Okay, you're back.
All right, thank you. Because my picture was frozen. That's what I noticed. So we have only one last question that we received like 5 minutes ago on the Facebook page. So a student wants to know if your university provides online training sessions for international students or not.
Aaron, I'm going to let you.
I don't think we have anything really specific in that area. Again, other than we will offer, just some sort of general informational types of sessions throughout the year that are virtual. But we really don't do too much in the way of online training. We really want to have students be able to be face-to-face with faculty and connect with them there. So it's mostly in-person pieces.
During the pandemic, we might have been able to accommodate that more. When I say we still are, I suppose, are in it, but when we were forced to not teach on campus, it would have been far easier. But to Aaron's point, we really want you here. We want to know you. We want to connect. We want you engaged, and we find that on campus is better for that, a better method.
Makes sense. All right. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. And I would like also to thank our two guest speakers today for coming and for the instructive information that they shared with you. We hope to have you again in the future with more opportunities. And also, if you could share your email addresses to our attendees, that would be great, even for them to connect with you. They might have more specific questions about your university. And of course, I would like to thank my colleague, Amy, for joining me today in this great session. I hope to have you more and more, Amy, in the future.
Thank you. Same here.
Thank you. Yes, it was our pleasure to be here. We're happy to share contact.
Thank you. And if you do come, please come say hi to me. I'd love to connect with you and get to meet you and eat some of your food that's cultural to you.
That would be awesome. Yes, why not? Thank you very much, everyone.
So long.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.